This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Should college athletes get paid? That's the question at the center of the surprise exit of UNLV's star quarterback Matt Sluka. Did Sluka leave his team in the lurch, or did UNLV not make good on its promises? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm talking to Adam Hill, sports columnist at the Las Vegas Review-Journal. We'll find out what Sluka's exodus means for UNLV and how this fits into the bigger issues that college athletes face. It's Monday, October 7th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Adam, this year the UNLV Rebels are ranked in the AP's top 25 for the first time as a Division I team. So how much credit do you think Sluka can take for this year's success?
Probably not as much as he thinks and the people around him think. It's a really, really good team. It's a really good program. I think the vast majority of the credit goes to Barry Odom, who's the head coach of the team. They've got an unbelievable defense. They've got really good special teams as well. They do everything well. Their offense was really probably the weak link of the team. And, you know, at the same time, like, you need a quarterback. You need a guy who's going to be the leader. And UNLV was actually, kind of ironically enough, going back, they were left without a quarterback because they had a star freshman last year who then there was a bidding war for him between two of the elite programs in the country this offseason. So their quarterback, you know, got taken away because of all the money that's in college athletics. They needed to find somebody. They found a kid in Matt Sluka who had 4 years already at Holy Cross in a lower division college football program. He was a really, really good player, but in a small school. He had his degree already, so he was a graduate transfer. And, you know, they were able to go and find him. But he wasn't the reason that they got off to a great start. He was just part of the team.
Okay, you already mentioned this sort of bidding war for last year's star quarterback. You know, what does that mean in terms of college athletics? Because technically, these students aren't getting paid, right? They're getting offered tuition legally. But what's really going on there?
Well, more than that. So it's a very weird gray area, which is what led to the Matthew Sluka situation in the first place. A college cannot pay a player, but people close to the college now, as of the last couple of years, can pay a player. Right. So if there's a prominent business that happens to be supporters of the team, they can pay the player. Hey, appear in a commercial for us. Come on and help sell some cars, and we can pay you this way. So a school like USC or Georgia, who that was the two schools bidding for UNLV star quarterback, they couldn't come out and say, we're going to pay you. But they could say, hey, we have businesses here in the community that will pay you, or we have opportunities for you to make money through these third-party outlets. And so there's all this happening. But there's no rules or regulation to it. And there's so much confusion going on around this because it is so brand new.
Okay, so what happened with Sluka?
So it depends who you ask, right? So what Matthew Sluka's side says is he was deciding which college to go to this offseason. And somebody from UNLV, an assistant coach, said to him, hey, if you come to UNLV, we could probably get somebody to give you $100,000. That's according to the kid. What the school says is that this didn't happen. Essentially, what they said is, hey, come to UNLV. Maybe there's a potential to make some money at some point. And that what the kid said was after 3 games, he's 3-0. He goes into the coach's office and says, hey, it's time to pay me my money. And they say, what money? Like, what are you talking about? This is never agreed to. It was never signed. What are you even referring to? And the kid has an agent who has now calculated that he's probably worth about $300,000 on the open market. So the school should pay him that. And if he doesn't, here's another aside to this. If you play in 4 games, you can't play anywhere else next year. You burn your year of eligibility. So basically what he's saying is, I need to stop playing now if I'm going to go somewhere else. So if you don't pay me, I'm going to leave school and play somewhere else next year that will pay me. And that just created this tense situation between the kid and the school. And I don't think it's fair to blame either side because we don't know exactly what happened, and we never will because nothing's in writing. But the school says, hey, he was basically trying to extort us. And the kid said, I just wanted what I was offered. But was he offered anything? We don't really know.
Do you have any sense how the rest of the team has been responding to this scandal?
We know publicly for
Yeah.
sure. There was a lot of support of the team. There was a lot of doubling down on players backing the coach, backing the team, backing the program, and really outright attacking without using his name, Matthew Sluka. So I would say, at least publicly, there's been a very strong support for Barry Odom and his coaching staff and the university, and very much anger directed at Matthew Sluka.
From not just the public, but the team members, like his
From the
team members as well.
From team members,
Wow.
yeah. There was, the star player is actually a wide receiver, very, very good player, Ricky White. And, the program put out an announcement for who the new starting quarterback was going to be with Sluka having left. And he said, it's about time. Like basically,
Wow.
he should have already been the starting quarterback. So, I mean, we've seen that. And that was also one of the linebacker who's, maybe their best defensive player said the same thing. So, we've definitely seen public support from the players for the team.
So the UNLV Rebels are doing really well this season. So do you think that as a result, the university is going to be having more compensation-related conversations to recruit athletes?
Yeah, every school is. I mean, there's no question. Like, that's what it kind of takes to be successful in this day and age. I'll just use this, and people can say I'm biased here because I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Michigan is a defending champion in college football. Their arch rival is Ohio State.
I'm from Ohio, so
Okay.
I don't know if you want to go there, but
Okay,
we
fine.
can fight. We can fight.
I'm actually going to give them credit here in a way, and it pains me to do it. But Ohio State's campus community, their boosters, and everyone around the program this offseason said, we are sick of losing to Michigan. We're getting beat by Michigan every year. I'm not going to say the number. I've heard the number. Here's umpteen millions of dollars. Go buy the best players in the country. Like, go do this. And now Ohio State is one of the two best teams in the country because they invested in that way.
And these are private businesses or private individuals?
So again, the school can't pay. So Ohio State, we'll just use them since we're talking about them. Ohio State can't say, hey, we're going to pay you $2 million to a player.
Right.
But what they have is third party. They're called collectives now. So it's basically a third party that manages the money for the program. And so a business would then pay the collective, and they'd say, here's $10 million distributed to the players how you see fit. And so it is the school, but it's not. It's like kind of a shell company in a way that they're doing it. And then what's also open, 5 years ago, a kid couldn't make money even on their own name. That was illegal.
Yeah.
When these rules were made, hey, you can pay people now. It wasn't we want you to pay people. It was we want players to be able to, earn a living and make money outside of their school. But because those regulations got thrown out, it's just become the wild, wild west. So the hope is really that there is some sort of regulation going forward. You never want to be the inflection point for change in this way, like that's negative. But for UNLV, this high-profile case is very likely.
Yes. So let's talk about this bigger issue, and then we'll bring it right back to UNLV, because it's been an ongoing conversation about whether college athletes should be paid. And I have a feeling that there are some people listening right now being like, oh, they're getting a full ride and they want all this other money. But of course, the counterpoint is they are bringing in a lot of money for schools. Yeah. And we'll pay graduate students to teach, so academics and athletics should be equally rewarded. And if someone is coming from a low-income background, even if they're getting full tuition, they may not have any money to pay for anything else and don't have the time to work between their academics and their athletics. So can you give us a little explainer about how compensation works under our current system? And we sort of brought up that it's technically illegal to pay student athletes.
Should college athletes be paid? Yes, they should.
Yeah.
And part of that is, as you mentioned, you get a scholarship. And yes, you get your room and board and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's millions and millions of dollars created. And again, I'm open to whether the college should be able to actually pay the player, if that's how it should work. But a player definitely should, you want to say, hey, you're getting your tuition and that sort of thing. But a player goes into the stadium and plays a game on a Saturday. And you look around and there's 20,000 people in the stands wearing your jersey that paid $100 for that jersey, and you don't see a cent of that. Those are the kind of revenue streams that I think absolutely should be open to a player. If you sell a jersey, or if you want to do a local commercial, I know some kids have real small deals, right? Where there's some kids now that have, say, a deal with a restaurant, where on Friday night they can bring 10 teammates for like a free meal at that restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, that was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be able to play in the game if you took free food from a restaurant, that sort of thing. Like now you can do that. And now you can take, hey, here's $5,000 for the season. Just send out one tweet that you enjoy our restaurant. Like those should be allowed. That kind of thing should absolutely be allowed. Now, direct payments, it's a different question. I'm definitely open to it, and I think it probably should happen. But I do think that there's definitely revenue streams that should be open to kids.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes when I'm not feeling well emotionally, I feel like I'm hiding behind a mask. If I'm taking my showbiz persona into my personal life and pretending everything is okay when it's really not, I know it's time to check in with a therapist. Because masks are for Halloween, not for my emotions. We all go through tough times, and in the past, I have found it really helpful to get an outside opinion to navigate my own emotions. And in my personal experience, every time I've begun therapy, I've also eventually come to a place where I realized I was doing okay, and it was time to stop. Therapy doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment, but that resource is always there if and when you need it. And with BetterHelp, it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule, and it's entirely online. So take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/citycast today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/citycast.
Beauty comes in every shade, only at Sephora. Choosing a complexion product that suits your skin and meets your beauty goals can be intimidating, which is why Sephora is there to help you discover the solution, whether you want subtle coverage or an airbrushed finish. With the greatest products from brands like Makeup by Mario, Kosas, Merit, and House Labs, you can feel confident you'll find the perfect match for your skin. Shop now at Sephora.
It does seem like if universities could pay students directly, we're also might be cutting out some of these ethics questions too. Like,
Sure.
Is there something ethically murky about having individuals and businesses essentially sponsor students?
Yes, there absolutely
Great.
is. Yeah, of course. But it's how it's going to be. And at least, I think these things have happened for a long time. What I would want is, hey, if a business is going to pay a kid, I think we should know what the contract is, what their responsibilities are to the business, what they're getting, and what the business expects of them, all of those things. I'd rather have that above board. The problem you're going to run into with colleges paying the kids directly is, okay, if Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State and USC can pay their kids, $600,000 a semester or something, whatever number you're going to throw out there, and UNLV can only pay theirs $4,000 a semester. As we learned through this, most kids on UNLV are getting $3,000 like a semester or a year for playing football through the collective. Like that's going to create even more imbalance in the world of college sports than there already is. And then that does become an issue, right? So is there a salary cap, which then isn't fair to the players either? If you say this is the most amount of money you can make, again, it might sound like we're saying there's all these different things because there is. There's so many different possibilities that are out there. There's so much to try to figure out that there has to be that regulating body or something.
Yeah, it's new, it's unregulated.
Sure, we can assure that it's fair to the kids. It's also fair to the schools, fair to the businesses that are trying to do it on the up and up too, right? You want these regulated because without it, it is going to be, there's scenarios out there and people have talked about this week. If you have a championship game coming up and you have a lot of money in your program, right? Say UNLV makes the playoff. They're playing, I'll throw you guys out there again, Ohio State. They're playing Ohio State in the playoff. What's to stop Ohio State from coming to the UNLV players, their best players, and saying, hey, here's $2 million. Sit out this game and then come to our school next year.
Ooh.
There's nothing
stopping.
There's literally nothing stopping that right now.
And I just want to shout out too that before 3 years ago when things started to change, there are stories of football players not being able to afford food when they're on the road for a game. Yeah. So I'm glad to see some forward movement. Okay, so actually speaking of this, local casino owner Derek Stevens came out and offered to give Sluka the $100K that he was allegedly promised and he was seeking, right?
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, UNLV turned it down, but are there potential problems with casinos, especially those with sports betting, making offers to pay student athletes?
So Derek Stevens had his people call over to UNLV within a couple of hours after the story came out and said, hey, if it's going to take $100,000, we'll give you the $100,000. Now, at the time that he made the offer, Sluka had already left school. Like, he was gone.
Okay.
And the damage had been done. The relationship between Sluka and his family and UNLV was over. So there was no ability to say, hey, would you come back if we give you this 100,000? And also at that point, it sounds like it was 300,000, not 100,000 that he wanted. So
wow.
Really wouldn't have
Okay.
mattered anyway. So basically, that there was never going to be a possibility because the relationship was so fractured at that point. And to the point of whether Derek Stevens, as CEO of Circa, could give him the $100,000, the answer would technically be no. But could, say, Matthew Sluka do an endorsement deal for a restaurant inside the Circa? Like, could he be the spokesperson for Barry's? Like, yes. So, I mean, again, gray area all over the place. He couldn't appear like, he couldn't wear a Circa sports hat, like a sports betting hat or something like that on the sideline. But he could potentially, say, wear a t-shirt for Barry's or do a commercial for Barry's or one of the other restaurants inside Circa. So that's where a lot of these things come in. But yeah, a direct sponsorship of a sports book wouldn't happen.
Do you think that Sluka made a mistake?
No, I don't. And it's crazy to say it because I think Matthew Sluka is not going to play in the NFL. He's not an NFL player. This year, this season of college football is his only last chance to make money as a football player. And he knew that.
Why can't he move on?
He's just not good enough.
Got it.
He's not good enough. He's not good enough to play at that level. And could he switch positions? Maybe we'll see. But he could not play quarterback at the NFL level. He could play maybe a tight end or running back. He'd have to switch positions and learn a whole new position. So I guess never say never is the key. But he's not an NFL quarterback. This is his best chance to cash in on all the work he's done throughout his life as a football player. His last opportunity, his last season. And so he knew that. His agent, quote unquote agent, knew that. So they decided to make a calculated risk to say, hey, if you don't pay us, we are going to pull out of school, drop out, and then enroll somewhere else next year that will pay us. And UNLV kind of called that bluff and said, then leave. Like, we're not going to pay you. But from Sluka's perspective, like, yes, he's probably hated by his teammates and by a lot of people around school. And he's been judged very harshly, I think, by a lot of people in the national media, as has UNLV, without anybody knowing all the facts. But for Matthew Sluka, in his mind, this is his chance to cash in, his only chance. Yeah. So he's got to try to take it and do what's best for him.
So why should Las Vegans care about the state laws surrounding payments for UNLV athletes?
Well, I mean, I guess as a general overriding rule, I guess they shouldn't care. I mean, if you don't care about football or you don't care about college sports, like, it doesn't really matter that much to you. I mean, it would matter to you if UNLV has a lot of success. It is more money for the state. It's more money for the programs and less money the state has to contribute to the program. So, I mean, there are those little moving pieces that you could say, anything that's good for UNLV and their athletic program is eventually good for the state in some way. It's also good for enrollment, which helps all the money coming into the school, that sort of thing. So that does matter. But, does it affect your life on a day-to-day basis if there's, good rules governing payment of college athletes? Probably not. But I think it's just good for everyone that does care about sports, that does care about college football, that should want to see things like this moving forward in terms of, regulating how this all goes. Because I think even if you don't care about football, there's a little bit of a civic pride of, hey, UNLV football is doing really good.
Yeah.
But then instead what you hear about is, oh, why are they promising kids money and not paying it if that's what really happened? Or why is that's not what you want as for a public institution here in Las Vegas. So I know most people don't care about college football like I do, or like many people do, but it is kind of an important thing for civic pride, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, because this is such a complicated issue, is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to comment on?
I think the important thing is just, for people to not, like, I've talked to everyone involved in this, from everyone around UNLV to Sluka's side to his people to basically the whole gamut of everybody. And I don't know exactly what happened. Right. Yet there's many people out there that are very, very forceful in their opinion of what happened here. And you don't know. And it's very, very, very complicated. So I think people that are like, this kid's a jerk or this kid's terrible are wrong. But people that are like, hey, the school sucks, they're wrong. They're probably wrong too. Like, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of gray area in this case that I think is important going forward to learn lessons from, to make sure that we come to some understandings and some better regulations and that sort of thing. So I think don't hate the kid, don't hate the school, let's just kind of work forward from here. Just chalk it up as a very, very unfortunate situation that could have been handled better by a lot of different people, but wasn't. And whether you care about football or not, like these are a lot of good kids that had their season very much kind of thrown into chaos for a few days. And now they're just focused on moving forward and trying to have a big year.
I think that is such a great point, Adam. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Hey, before I sign off, I wanted to let you know we're hosting a CityCast Mixer. It's this Wednesday, October 9th at Makers and Finders in the Arts District from 5 to 7 p.m. It's for people who love this podcast to meet other people who love this podcast, as well as host David Figler and a few other members of the team. Admission is free, and the first 35 attendees get a free drink. So we will see you on Wednesday, October 9th. Makers and Finders from 5 to 7 p.m. for our first CityCast Mixer. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed this show, the best way to let people know we're here is to send this episode to a friend. You can rate our show and leave us a review as well, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.